Before we begin, a note on where you've landed. You've just woken up in the city of Rome. The year is 100 AD. The emperor is Trajan. Rome's population is approximately 1 million people, making it the largest city on Earth. You are not an emperor, you are not a senator, you are an ordinary Roman, a freeborn male citizen of modest means, a craftsman perhaps, a small trader. Your life is about to be profoundly, relentlessly strange. Let's walk through your day, the 4th hour before dawn. The noise that wakes you. You wake not to an alarm, but to noise. Rome does not permit wheeled vehicles inside the city walls during daylight hours. So every delivery, every cart of goods, every shipment of stone and food and timber that keeps 1 million people alive, it all moves at night. The streets outside your window have been a continuous roar of axles and horse hooves and the shouting of drivers since sunset. This is the background music of Roman nights. Poet Juvenal, writing around this exact period, complained that no one in Rome could get enough sleep. He was not exaggerating. Your apartment, an insula, a multi-story building of fired brick and timber, is on the 4th floor. The higher you live, the cheaper the rent, and the greater your fire risk. Rome burns constantly. It has burned so many times that the city developed the world's first fire brigade, the Vigils, who are at this very moment doing their rounds in the streets below. If your building catches fire tonight, the Vigils may not be able to reach you before the stairway is impassable. You have accepted this. It is the ordinary risk of living in a city. Dawn. The street smells like what you think. It smells like step outside. The first sensation is smell. Rome has no sewage system in the modern sense. The main sewer, the Cloaca Maxima, handles drainage from public baths and streets. But waste from private homes is another matter. Chamber pots are emptied from windows with a warning shout. Legally, you must warn pedestrians below, though this rule is imperfectly enforced. The streets are paved with large stones that also serve as stepping stones, elevated above the general level of the street, because the gutters run with a mixture of rainwater, animal waste from pack animals, and the runoff from fullers. Laundries that use aged human urine as a cleaning agent and have collection pots on street corners where passers-by are expected to contribute. You step over a puddle using the crossing stones and don't think much about it. Breakfast is bread. Almost certainly bread. Possibly with olive oil, occasionally with a smear of garum. Fermented fish sauce, which is to Rome what ketchup is to modern America. Present on almost everything, invisible in its normalcy, incomprehensible to outsiders. You eat standing up at a thermopolium, a street counter with large ceramic jars sunk into the stone surface, keeping food warm. Rome has almost no private kitchens in apartment buildings. Fire risk. So most Romans eat at these counters, the ancient equivalent of a food cart. The bread is good. See, Rome's grain supply is an engineering marvel. The first hour, you are going to the baths. At 7 a.m., this sounds strange to modern ears. Romans bathe socially, daily, and communally. The thermae, public baths, are not just washing facilities. They are the social internet of the Roman world. You will see men you know, discuss business, hear news from the provinces, watch athletes exercise in the adjoining gymnasium, perhaps catch a performance by a musician or a poet declaiming in the changing rooms. You pay a small entry fee, subsidized by the state, because emperors understood that keeping 1 million people clean and entertained was a political necessity, and undress communally. There are no individual changing stalls. Theft of clothes is a common problem. Some people bring slaves to watch their belongings. The bathing sequence is specific. The tepidarium, the warm room, where you acclimatize. Then the caldarium, the hot room, filled with steam from the hypocaust heating system, an underfloor network of heated air channels that represents some of the most sophisticated thermal engineering the ancient world produced. Then if you are brave, the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool. You are scraped. Not washed with soap. Soap exists but is rarely used in baths. Instead, olive oil is applied to your skin, and a curved metal tool called a strigil is used to scrape the oil off, taking dead skin and dirt with it. Someone does this for you. If you're wealthy, your personal slave does it. If you're not, you either bring a friend or pay the bath attendant. By the time you emerge, it is perhaps 2 hours after sunrise, and you are cleaner than most people in medieval Europe would ever be in their entire lives. Mid-morning, the law is having a very loud day. You pass the Forum. The Forum Romanum is the civic center of the world. Temples, government buildings, merchants, and, today, as most days, a trial in progress. Roman trials are public spectacles. The accused stands in the open air. The prosecution and defense deliver speeches that function as much as theatrical performances as legal arguments. Witnesses are called. The crowd reacts, cheering, heckling, murmuring appreciation at a well-turned phrase. The quality of the speeches matters enormously. Skilled orators routinely win cases on the strength of rhetoric that has nothing to do with the evidence. Cicero, who lived a century before your day, was the most powerful man in Rome, not because of his birth or his wealth, but because no one on earth could speak the way he could. Justice in Rome is not blind. It is acutely sensitive to class, to patronage, to the quality of your advocate. You watch for a few minutes and move on. You have a client to see. Noon, the city goes quiet. Briefly. At the 6th hour, noon, Rome does something that the modern world has almost entirely forgotten. It stops. This is not laziness. It is architecture and climate. Italian summers make midday work brutal. The shuttered workshops, the quiet streets, the bodies lying in any available shade. This is a rational adaptation to an environment that will kill you if you ignore it. You find a shaded portico and eat a light lunch. More bread, perhaps some olives, a boiled egg if you can afford it. This pause is also when Roman business culture operates on what we would call informal networking. The patron-client relationship, the backbone of Roman social organization, functions through favors, appearances, recommendations. Your patron is a wealthier man who intercedes for you in legal matters and occasionally feeds you. You, in return, attend his morning salutatio, vote as he directs, and enhance his social standing through the size of his visible retinue. Rome is transactional in ways that shock modern visitors. Bribery, as we understand it, barely exists as a concept because the exchange of gifts and favors for services is so normalized it has its own vocabulary. Friendship is a political technology. Afternoon, entertainment. That we would arrest people for the games are not today, but there are shows. Roman entertainment exists on a spectrum that is difficult to contextualize without being honest. Gladiatorial combat, which you have seen many times and regard with the same mix of excitement and normalcy that a modern viewer brings to boxing, is on one end. But there are also chariot races at the Circus Maximus, which seats 250,000 people and generates the kind of partisan frenzy that modern sports stadiums aspire to. There is theater, comedy, tragedy, pantomime. The violence in gladiatorial combat is real, but it is also frequently misrepresented. Gladiators are expensive investments. Killing them in every bout makes no economic sense. Most gladiatorial fights end not in death but in surrender, and the crowds vote on the loser's fate. Thumbs up, thumbs down. The famous gesture is usually mercy. Death is the exception, said not the rule. This does not make it less brutal. It makes it complicated, like many things about Rome. Evening, a dinner is a social statement. If you have been invited to a cena, a dinner, at a patron's house, you arrive at the 9th or 10th hour. Dinner is the performance of the Roman social day. You recline on couches arranged in a U-shape. You do not sit. Sitting to eat is what lower-class people do. The food arrives in courses: gustaccio, the appetizer; prime mense, the main courses; seconde mense, the dessert. The quality and quantity of food signals your host's wealth and your standing as a guest. Where you are placed at the table communicates precisely what your host thinks of you. Wine is everywhere, always cut with water. Drinking wine undiluted is considered barbaric, something northern foreigners do. Conversation is the entertainment. Philosophy, gossip, recitation of poetry, discussion of current events. A good dinner can last 4 hours. Night, back to the noise. You walk home in the dark. Rome at night has no public lighting. You either carry a torch, which marks you as a target for thieves, or you walk with others. Violent crime at night is common enough that Augustus established the vigiles specifically to address it. You walk quickly. You know which streets to avoid. This is local knowledge that every Roman resident holds the way modern city dwellers know which intersections to skip after dark. The noise from the street carts has begun again. You climb to your floor, lie on your sleeping surface. A wooden frame with a thin mattress stuffed with wool or straw, and listen to the city that will not sleep doing all the work it is forbidden from doing while you're awake. What this day tells us here is what one day as an ordinary Roman reveals that 1,000 textbooks miss. This was not a primitive world. The engineering, the social infrastructure, the legal complexity, the public health systems, Rome was operating at a level of urban sophistication that would not be seen again in Western Europe for over 1,000 years. But it was also not like us in ways that are jarring and important. The violence was normalized. The inequality was profound and structural. The lives of enslaved people, who made up between 20 and 35% of Rome's population, existed in conditions of complete legal non-personhood. Rome was advanced and brutal simultaneously. It was sophisticated and cruel in the same breath. And understanding that is actually the most important thing history can teach us. Because every civilization looks at itself and sees civilization. The brutality is the background, the sophistication is what it tells itself. We are not immune to this. We never have been.